Welcome, fight fans, to the 6th episode of Hooks In MMA Podcast. Hope you guys are having a good July so far. Can't believe it's almost August. We've got a card coming up Saturday night, Fight Island. We're going to be breaking that down. Also talking about the dominance of all the male UFC champions right now. We've got some amazing stats to share with you on that front. Two amazing interviews, as always. We've got two great guests. One, funny enough, his son is fighting tomorrow in the co-main event on Bellator 242. Lee Grampinator Mian is coming on the show. He's an MMA legend in his own right, and his son Jordan, the young gun Mian, is fighting Jason Jackson. Tune into that on Bellator tomorrow night. It's going to be a great fight. And second, and certainly not last, we have top 5, if not top 3, UFC flyweight Alex Perez on tonight's show. That's going to be a great interview as well, so tune in for that one. And of course, we've got Easy Lines, getting ahead of that book. Make sure to throw some money on your online betting and get ready to win some money. Let's kick things off with hot headline news. Here's Adam Davidson.
Thanks, Ben. So currently we have a lot of UFC champs that have almost perfect records. I think Zeman was talking earlier in the week in our group what the stats are. If you can shed a little light on that, Zeman.
Yeah, no, I got them here in front of me. So yeah, combined the male champions right now are 165 and 8, and 3 of those, 165 and 8. So yeah, exactly. So, and 3 of those losses are Stipe's losses. Everyone else is basically like 19 and 1 or whatever, 20 and 1 and things like this. So 95.4% win rate. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well, which is kind of cool, is that just the diversity of this group. You know, of course, there's Americans, but we have Russian champions, Brazilian champions, Nigerian champions, Australians, Chinese as well with the women's. And actually the women's champs are pretty good too, right? With Valentina, Weili, Amanda Nunes, like you got all these people. So all across the board, really, it's a great time to be a UFC fan, I think, in my opinion. And I'm really excited to see, you know, how these guys do against the up and coming challengers.
Yeah, like I couldn't agree more, Z. Like fantastic stats, but I did want to mention like one quick thing, and I think it's just like the way that the UFC is set up now and the way that the fights happen for fighters when they build them up. I just want to rebuttal a little bit on that, not to take any away with that record. Like I think it's fantastic, but I do still think we all have to have an appreciation for back in the day. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about title defenses. So if you add up Davison Figueiredo, Pierre Yan, Volkanovski, Usman, Adesanya, and Miocic right now, they've only defended their title a combined 7 times. And then if you look at 3 guys back in the day, GSP and Aldo both defended their title 9 times individually, and Anderson Silva 10 times himself. I just think it's a different wave, which is it's not a problem. I think it's good. It makes actually for less dominance, I guess, in the individual weight classes, but more exciting because anybody can come and dethrone. Whereas back in the day, you had these 3 specific guys I'm mentioning just completely dominated their division for so long. I think there still needs to be an appreciation for those guys not going up and, you know, for Cejudo trying to get a 3rd title shot at featherweight against Volkanovski. That's really impressive. But I still think there needs to be an appreciation for the dominance back in the day, but also, as to your point, these days of how good the records are of the guys currently holding and women holding a championship.
Yeah, and you wonder too, like what is like their actual UFC records? Like some of these guys, I know Khabib had like 13, 14 fights before he was in the UFC. So, you know, you look at his stats and he's got, you know, 20 wins undefeated. But how many wins do these guys have coming into the UFC? Be interesting to know what those stats are.
Yeah, and we can look that up at another date, I'm sure. But I think, you know, these guys are that good. Like Z is saying, they are that dominant that in the shows that they fought in before, the smaller promotions, they're just that dominant there. And they rack up, I don't know, 8 to 10 wins. And then they come in the UFC, they're actually prepared enough to propel themselves further and beat up on the, the lower to middle echelon guys. And then that just kind of develops them. Like UFC does a good job of, building up the prospects, like a guy like O'Malley, a few other guys too, right? Where they build them up. They don't give them crazy fights right off the bat. You got to work your way up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a smart way to build a brand.
Unless you're Super Sage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's true with the young talent, right? It's kind of like all sports. You look at every professional sport, they're all kind of getting younger. And I think the stats kind of show that, right? Back in the day, these guys were like veterans defending their belt numerous times. Now it's kind of these young up and comers, so they don't necessarily have as storied careers. So the numbers show, 95% win rate or whatever it was. And you can go through each weight class, both male, female, and have an argument with, each champion there and their track record. But I think in general, the sport, UFC, as well as other sports, it's just getting younger. And these young kids are just coming on the scene and just dominating, right?
Hockey's a good one to talk about, because there's a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and some of them are already top class. Like, they're so fast, they're so skilled. It's a smaller game, it's a quicker game. The hitting is out of it, the fighting's out of it. It's a skillful game. It's almost the same in the UFC, I think, and a lot of other sports, like you said, Ben. Just very skilled at a younger age, which shows the technology and the development of
it's evolving
athletes.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then now, like, you got, when we started watching UFC, 10, 15 years ago, guys grew up just doing wrestling, just doing judo, just doing karate. Now kids are growing up training at MMA, so they don't really have any weaknesses coming into the sport.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great time to be a UFC fan.
Yeah. More well-rounded, right? Less one-trick ponies. That's kind of rare now. That's like the exception, whereas back in the day, that was like the prototype champion was that excellent striker or just excellent wrestler. Now it's like you don't see that much.
Wasn't there at one time like most of the champions were all wrestling backgrounds? Like,
like even GSP,
Sarah,
GSP,
Randy
Couture,
Randy, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of interesting now too, like going back to I think Zone said it in terms of the new wave, right? Like a lot of these guys, are their records kind of inflated perhaps? It could be, but at the same time, it's like you're not getting UFC title shot without getting a couple of fights. And a lot of these guys kind of have boring personalities. Like they didn't get their UFC shot real quick. Alexander Volkanovski, Peter Yan, these guys, even like Kamaru Usman, I think he has 10 or 8 or 9 maybe at least fights in a row for UFC. So now we're going to get to see, okay, now you guys you've all got to the top, Israel, Habib, all these guys. Okay, who can actually stick there, right? Who can be that GSP? Who can be that Silva? Or is it going to be kind of a musical chair situation where it keeps on getting passed around? Personally, I think, the most likely one to stay there is obviously Habib, but Habib doesn't seem to be too motivated to have too many more defenses. It seems like, especially with his father passing away recently. So, it's going to be interesting to see which one of these guys can really hold on to it for a meaningful period of time, as Shale Sonnen would say.
Yeah.
And DC, I think DC said he's going to retire after this fight no matter what. And then 100%. Now they're saying that Stipe might retire after this fight.
Which is very interesting for the heavyweight division. But just to throw it out there off Z's point, who do you think will hold the title longest? Who currently has it?
It's tough seeing anyone beat Usman.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, it's either Usman. Like I can even see Israel losing to Costa. Like that's for another day. We're gonna talk about that. But like that's kind of scary. Volkanovski, I could see easily losing to Zabit, Korean Zombie, even Yara Rodriguez, Peter Yan. I mean, Peter Yan actually looks like
he's in the conversation.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. I think
even Figueiredo he might be really hard to beat at flyweight too.
Not if a hooks and guess can dethrone him.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get into that too.
Yeah, and with John Jones most likely jumping up the heavyweight, he's going to vacate that title as well, right?
Yeah, he
So we'll
could.
have a new champion at light heavyweight.
Adesanya definitely could, but he's got a couple of tough tasks coming his way.
Costa.
Yeah.
Guy looks like he was built in a lab. Like, guy's
And
an
I'm
animal.
they're not testing them. Like even that Yana Kunitskaya came on Twitter and she said that like she hasn't been tested in 8 months, or some other her and Rua haven't been tested in a while. So it's like with this whole pandemic situation, how much are these people actually being tested? And Costa, I think he's taking a huge advantage of it because he looks ridiculous.
I think it's just in the water down there. Like they're all just freaks.
I think it's a little bit underrated, but I think Dillashaw coming back, even though he served his time, he can't argue that he couldn't come back and regain it and hold on to it as well. He's still pretty fucking good, cheating or not, and he's really well rested.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Which could be, he could have some rest as well, right? So
yeah,
ring rest.
Could.
Never know.
Do you guys want to jump into the main event this weekend, UFC Fight Island? Whittaker versus Till. What do you guys think about this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start it off here. I mean, Whittaker -125, Till +100. Obviously, middleweight, top 5 for the division. Whittaker's coming off that KO loss to Israel Adesanya in October last year, kind of a brutal KO, but that was his first loss since 2014. Back in Christmas last year, I believe he was actually scheduled to fight Jared Cannonier, but called up Dana and said he was kind of burnt out or was kind of not really feeling the fight game as much. Wasn't going to happen anyways because of the pandemic, but he got that itch to fight again, signed up to fight Till, a very dangerous guy in Till. He's coming off a decision win with Kelvin Gastelum. That was his first fight in middleweight against Gastelum, but he just lost to Woodley and Masvidal in welterweight by finish. I think the main question is what's Whittaker's chin like right now? He had 2 wars with Yoel Romero, 2 crazy fights, had some, injuries, and he got touched up real badly by Israel. Now, everyone gets touched up by Israel, so you kind of have to forgive him there. We'll see what happens, but that was a hard knockout. So, but overall, I do think he's the better overall fighter. I am taking Whittaker to win this fight. Till mostly just has that left hand and left body kick, which he's very, very good at. But I'm taking Whittaker to win this one. But what are you guys thinking?
I personally wouldn't bet on this fight. Both guys they're almost everything else is virtually identical. They're the same height. The reach is within an inch. Obviously, they're going to be the same weight. They both have great takedown defense. They're both stand-up guys. I don't know. I think this is a coin toss for me.
Yeah, it's a tough call for the betting lines, at least. Like we talked about earlier, not many guys, I think Kron said not many guys have a one-trick pony now. Well, Whittaker said, Darren Till's only got his left hand. So he's one guy that at least he thinks that isn't very multifaceted. I think he is. Till said the best thing to ever happen to him was to lose those 2 fights. Masvidal and who's his other loss?
Woodley.
He said that was the best thing to ever happen to him. He's been rejuvenated. And I feel like, fighters, like, they almost tell themselves that. Like, I don't want to say that that's, that he's lying, but like he had 1 win after those 2 fights. So it's easy to say, well, I just needed to lose those 2. I mean, you lost to good guys. But if he truly believes that, he's obviously got a shot on Saturday. Whittaker's the better fighter. He's more well-rounded. He should win, but Till could easily win, and he could easily get the title shot after.
Don't see many closer matchups in this. Truly coin flip. I'm going to go Whittaker. Easy lines. Big bounce back this weekend. Let's go, Z-Balls.
Really good.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead there, Av.
Oh, no, I was just going to jump into the co-main, unless you want to add anything else.
No, I'm good. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Okay, co-main Antonio Nogueira versus Shogun Rua. Personally, I don't really like this fight as the co-main. Both guys are legends, but let's be honest, they're both past their prime. Nogueira's 44, Shogun's 38. It's not quite the Data 5000 versus Kimbo Slice for the exhausted belt, but I personally think you could get a better co-main. But both guys are absolute animals. Both guys are legends, but they have a combined 70 fights. Crazy. But yeah, what do you think, Z-Balls, for picks?
Well, before Z-Balls does his analysis, if you want a better co-main, just tune in tomorrow, DAZN, Bellator 242.
Really good.
Really good plug. Unreal. But yeah, no, I was gonna say, Rua. I mean, he's a heavy favorite, minus 190. Nogueira plus 160. This is the third time they fought. Actually, the last time they fought was 2015, which was I believe it was kind of a boring fight. But the one before that was an absolute crazy brawl. But yeah, like you said, they're both older. Rua's coming off a draw from Paul Craig. Nogueira was a loss to Ryan Spann, KO in May of last year. Yeah, personally, I'm leaning towards Rua on this one. He's obviously younger. I'm actually looking at this for them to go to decision. They're both kind of, like I said, older. I think they're going to lean on each other a little bit. They're not going to take as many risks as they were when they were younger, and I think Rua squeaks out that decision, at least at plus 375. I really like that price. Who knows what's going to happen, but I'm definitely leaning on Rua in that decision.
I hate to disagree with easy lines. I definitely agree Rua is going to win. Nogueira, Davidson just said his age. There's going to be no swan song for this guy. This is his last fight, said he's retiring after. It's going to be a good night party. It's going to be a knockout for Mauricio Shogun Rua. I thought this a month ago. It's plus 105. Fucking bang him out. Let's go.
There we go. I like it. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't hate that pick either, right? I'm just for the value, I would say, on that decision, but I can definitely see him knocking it, like obviously ending the fight for sure. Nogueira's a little on the, or what do they call it? Lawn in the tooth, as they say. So, I'm good on that one. Jumping on to the next one, I believe, is the Alexander Gustafsson versus Fabricio Verdum. Gustafsson is a heavy favorite, minus 350. Verdum plus 275. Obviously, Gustafsson moving up to heavyweight for his first fight. He lost to Anthony Smith last summer by decision. Kind of retired, as they do right after the fight. Clearly was emotional after the loss, which anyone would be, and got that itch to come back as well. So Verdum, his most recent fight, he lost to Alexei Oleinik, which was a split decision just 2.5 months ago. So he seems to be fresh in there. I'm definitely obviously leaning on Gustafsson. I think he's going to be great at heavyweight. I don't think that guys going from light heavyweight to heavyweight's a really big difference for them. So I definitely look on him to win on this one.
Yeah, I agree there too. Like how bad was Verdum's last fight?
It was absolutely awful.
It was maybe one of the worst fights I've seen.
I've never seen Alexei Oleinik go forward anymore, and I've never seen Fabricio Verdum look so bad.
Yeah,
Gustafsson's going to crush him with speed. He's way quicker than him. Verdum's just going to fucking turtle. I can see Gustafsson finishing that fight too.
Okay.
That plus 110.
Yeah.
Which round you guys feeling for that?
Second.
You want to get a little extra value? I'm liking that as well.
Plus 500 second round finish.
That's nice. That's nice, juicy.
Yeah.
I like it.
I guess we're going reverse order tonight.
Yeah.
For the picks.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
That's all right. What's the next fight? Carlos Barza versus Marina Rodriguez, women's strawweight.
Just want to quickly. Sorry, go ahead, Z.
No, go ahead. You go.
I just wanted to quickly chirp Carlos Barza. I love women's fights, and I honestly mostly like them more than the male fights. I find they got a lot more to prove for some reason. Carla Esparza is the most boring women's fighter I've ever seen.
She's
in
the
my life.
cookie, man.
Yeah, she does absolutely nothing. Like she's jab. She never looks to finish. And I mean, most recently, she's been absolutely boring. I hope Marina Rodriguez chokes her out. I don't have a bet for that, but
That's what you're hoping
A hope's
for,
a
at
bet.
least.
Yeah, a hope's a bet.
Yeah, it's a bet with yourself.
It's just an extra sweat if it doesn't happen.
she pisses me off how she fights. It's horrible.
Oh, that's the funny you say that, because I am leaning on her to win by decision, plus 187.
Wow.
That could happen. That could happen.
Not a finish though.
Yeah, like it's funny, like to go the distance is minus 400. Like that's crazy, even for any fight. So, yeah, no, I mean, I'm like you said, I do believe Carla's going to be able to control with her grappling and that boring wrestling. At least that's what I'm leaning on. Who knows? But hey, Marina at plus 450 by finish. That's kind of juicy as well. If you want to, bet with your hope, I think that's kind of good as well.
Bet with your heart.
Yeah.
Always.
Her last 6 wins have all been by decision, so that'll tell you a little bit how exciting she is.
Yeah. But, Marina, I'm looking at it like she just had a draw with Cynthia Calvillo, who I really respect. She had a decision over Tisha Torres before that as well. So, she's got some good, like, this is a good matchup, but like you said, it's a good matchup, but it's going to be a boring fight, probably.
She's never lost.
Yeah, true. Oh yeah, Marina has never lost. You're right. Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, then next up we got Paul Craig, and forgive me for this pronunciation, Gazimrad and Tugalov. How's that?
It's Antigulov. I don't know about the first name though.
That's why I apologize in advance.
Gadzimurad Antigulov.
Oh.
Anti-dentite.
You anti-dentite bastard.
Z-Balls?
Oh no, I don't got any analysis for that one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of those
Is
guys.
that it for easy lines? Sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay.
Well, we got a couple Canadians on the card. We should probably give a
we got to talk about our
little nod of the hat too.
Our Hooks and alumni Bozer boy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have 3 things written down. 2 of them are for Bellator. One's for UFC. The UFC one is for Bozer and Pizzoa to go to a decision. It's minus 138. I really like that. I think Bozer is really good, and we love him. I think he got a little bit lucky with the overhand right. I mean, those don't always land. I think he's way quicker, and I think he's better than Pizzoa. I just think it goes 3 rounds.
Yeah, and that Pizzoa, like, how lucky was that win too, right? Like, he was getting beat the whole time, and the guy he panic tapped, almost like it was like a weird position. So yeah, Bozer boy for the win, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Jesse, the body snatcher, Ronson. Big underdog.
It's a big fight for him. Right now he's 0-5 in the big promotions. He's 0-2 in PFL, and he was 0-3 with 3 split decision losses in UFC. He's got a lot to prove, and he said he wants a performance of the night bonus. All he wants to do is stand and bang. He said he almost was going to tweet Nicholas Dalby and ask him, can we please just stand for this fight? Because I just want us to get a $50K bonus. So he's gonna bring it for sure. He could actually finish him, but he expects to be taken against the fence and kind of grind it out. So he could get the win, and I hope he does, because then that'll at least give him a win in one of the big shows. But he's a pretty big underdog, so we'll see what happens.
Yep. Should be exciting. Really stoked for this weekend. We got back-to-back nights with 2 great cards. So hope all our fans and all our viewers enjoy these upcoming bouts. You guys enjoy these interviews as well. You don't want to miss them. And, definitely tune in next Friday as we get into Hooks in episode 7. Take care, y'all.
All right. Next up on the Hooks in MMA podcast, we have Lee Main, lives in Lethbridge, Alberta, father of Jordan Main, 2 MMA Canadian legends. How's it going today, Lee?
It's going awesome. Great day.
So what happened today? So you're just coming back from a class, and what were you teaching tonight, and how did it go?
Yeah, I had adult BJJ class at 5:45 to 6:30, all technique and drills. And then we go to JIT sparring class for 45 minutes, and then we jump right into adult kickboxing class. I just finished that, and now they're sparring right now. I'm leaving them unsupervised, and hopefully no one gets hurt.
Yeah, we're hoping so too. We appreciate your time. So overall, you have a 11-14 record with 11 finishes. Not a lot of people can say they have a 100% finish rate. Pretty impressive. And
That's
you
because
also,
cardio to get a decision. That's why.
so it's got to be done before the end of 3, right?
Before the end of 1. That's my
Before
goal.
the end of 1. Okay. So I just wanted to start off. You at one point you fought Dan Severn. So I bring his name up just based on, he's fought 120 fights, pretty famous name back in the day. And I just was curious. We were curious how that came about. How did that fight formulate? And, what was it like fighting somebody like that with that many fights at that time?
Yeah, it was at a time when, for me, wasn't training a lot because of back injuries. I was waiting for back surgery, but I didn't want to turn down an opportunity to fight a legend like that. And so I took the fight, and it was just a great experience because the guy, he was so nice before the fight. And during the fight, he's a pure sportsman. We're cracking on each other, and his grip. I remember clinching with people all the time, like, oh yeah, I'm strong in the clinch. I went to reach around him, and I couldn't get my hands together around his back. That's how thick he was. I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, I've never experienced that before. So just learning that as you fight, right? And then getting caught in a lockdown and getting elbowed, my head's bouncing off the floor. I'm like, well, I'm not getting hurt, but I'm also not getting out of here, right? And so then that ref jumped in and stopped the fight. But it was just a class act after the fight. And every time I've seen him since, he's been like, he came into town a few times to do some pro wrestling stuff. And he'll always call to say hi and stop by the gym and say hi. He's in town, and he doesn't have to do that, right? So no. Class that he is, and I'm just glad I got the chance to share the cage with him and have him as a friend now. So that's a big thing for me, is the experiences I get through my fights. And not only my fights, but my fighters' fights. You just build friendships with these other fighters from around the world, and it's just a great community.
No, that's awesome. They don't have to do that. He didn't have to do that, and it's pretty cool that he did. Just a quick question based on that, though. So today, if you fight your next fight, it's basically we're using social media to get a fight, or after a fight, they're interviewing and you're calling somebody out. How did that fight formulate? Like, how did it even happen?
Well, back in the day, there wasn't much social media anyways, right? But the promoter that was doing the show in Saskatoon, we've had guys fight on his shows before, and he said, hey, you got any heavyweights that want to fight? And I said, yeah, I'll fight. And that was basically it. So we went out there. It was a small little venue. It was full, but it was just one of those shows that, small town show. And it was just because he was who he was that drew the crowd. Right. So I was just glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. And some of those small town shows, I've been to plenty myself. I actually saw a Jordan fight at I wouldn't even call them small town. I guess like Score Fighting Series was pretty big at one point when it was running. But I mean, I did go to a few small town shows and an ice rink, and the ice was gone and they put in a cage, and there's a couple hundred people there. I like those a little bit better. You're closer. You can hear everything going on. It's good stuff. Yeah. So you started at 33 years of age. I guess what got you hooked in? What got you started? What got you going?
Well, I started training with Kempo Karate. I started that when I was 25. My brother started teaching martial arts here. He'd gone down to California to train and came back. And I was always I love fighting, and I was working security in nightclubs, and I was like, oh, I want to learn more. And so I started training that. And then, of course, everything I did was based on what works in reality. So, I was doing a kata and doing some move, and I'm like, man, that would never work. Although that little part would work really good. So through trial and error and through life experience, you find out what works and what didn't work. And that just made me naturally gravitate towards, combat and say, okay, well, what really works? And that led to jiu-jitsu and the wrestling and the kickboxing. And I started training with Bosch Rutten then in 2000, 1998, in there at that time frame. And Roy Harris, my jiu-jitsu instructor, I met him in 2000. That was after my very first fight. And I realized I knew a little bit, but not a lot. So I thought, no, I got to learn more. And it meant for here, there was no one around here. So I had to travel. I had to travel to California to train with Boss, travel to California to train with Roy, or pay to bring them into Lethbridge to train. And that's what you just did, right? And watch VHS tapes and whatever you could do to gather knowledge, and that was the start of it.
It makes a lot of sense. But what I got from that is, MMA is, I guess you could apply it on a lot of different things, but MMA is like continuous growth, right? Like you can never know enough. There's so many disciplines. There's so much to know. You can keep getting better. You get a loss and you can figure out, what went wrong and kind of work on whatever it may be, if it's takedown defense, whatever it is. But I like the way you put that, because, you bring in people with different backgrounds and you're able to develop, those strengths or those weaknesses into strengths.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
now that I've been doing it longer, I see stuff that not having a wrestling background. It's always fun when we fight the wrestler type guy, and we have to really strategize for that. And you learn from those fights. When my son Jordan fought Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce, we prepared the best we could for that, but we learned so much after that fight from that fight that we made adjustments, and now his wrestling is really strong because of those things we learned from that fight. And that connection we made with him, and he asked Jordan to come out and be a sparring partner for one of his upcoming fights. So he got to go out and train with them for a while, just stuff like that. So that connection you meet with in the industry helps your game get better if you're willing to put your ego aside and go learn. So,
yeah. Wasn't that was a split decision?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. Like what? Not many people take Woodley to a split decision. That was a tight one. I remember that one.
Yeah.
So you own Canadian Martial Arts Center. That's what it's called. And when did you start that? And I guess why?
I started originally, it was Means Martial Arts. So our last name, me and my brother were teaching and stuff. And then as I expanded, I wanted to, go away from just my name. What if I sold it, or what if, other instructors come in and that type of stuff, and tried to grow the business. So I switched the name to Canadian Martial Arts Center. And that was around 90, I would say like 96, 97, somewhere in there, where we made the change and we started developing from there. So been in Lethbridge the entire time, and just growing now. Where before the COVID shutdown, we were at around 350 members or something like that, and had a good base of students. And of course, during the break shutdown, we lost some because people had to make choices of what they were going to do. And now we're back up and starting to grow again rapidly. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And just on the same note as talking about your gym. So I saw at one point, when pandemic stuff going on, pretty shitty time for everybody. You were going to reopen. I saw from some of the guys that I went to high school with back here, Josh Hill, Lyndon Whitlock, both of those guys were, talking about how, great it was to make that decision to open up. In the end, before you actually reopened, you ended up listening to like the health officials, or how did that go about? I know you really wanted to.
Yeah, I had planned to open because I wasn't happy with what was being done. I didn't like I saw BC opened up already. I didn't like all the protocols that they had in place, and I wouldn't accept those protocols. We have our own protocols in place that we had, and I was willing to adapt some new ones, but not the protocols that BC outlaid. I didn't want that to happen. And so when I met with the manager for Southern Alberta, for AHS, Alberta Health Services, I met with him and discussed what my plans were. And he said, Grant, I love what you're doing. Let's send your proposal to, the province and see what they say, what we can do. And let's just try and work something out. I said, okay, as long as you're willing to work with me, I'll back off on my opening and I'll let you get the wheels in motion. And my MLA went to them as well and try to push, this is what he wants to do. And so I was giving that time to operate and do their thing. And it got to be about 2-3 weeks later when it seemed like nothing was happening. I was like, okay, I'm not going to keep waiting anymore. I told them I'm going to open. I'm not waiting. Then they did the whole, we're going to move it from stage 3 to stage 2. And we're going to have a town hall meeting and we're going to discuss things and all that. So we had the town hall meeting. Nothing was discussed of importance. And it just seemed like a complete waste of time. And then the following week they came out with the protocols. And for martial arts, it had its own separate, section in the 15-page document they sent out for martial arts and what we're allowed to do and what we're supposed to try and do. And basically everything I had laid out for the protocols, that's what we got. And so I was happy with that, So I was like, yeah, we're good. Let's get back to business. So worked out good.
Yeah, well, I feel like the way that you kind of went about that, I'm a similar, mindset in a lot of things. Follow the law and all that stuff, but there's some things that you don't agree with, and you got to fight back a little bit. And you own a gym, and you got a lot of people that want to get in there, and it's a business, and there's a lot to it, right? And I know a lot of people I know here are hurting in Southern Ontario. A few gyms have had to close. Like, it's not cool, and it hurts Canadian MMA, and it hurts the owners and the fighters and the trainers and the coaches and everybody involved. So
the biggest thing for me was I was okay. Business was well, and I knew I'd saved up enough money to prepay taxes, and was saving up to try and build a house for the first time. So I had money put away. So I knew, okay, it sucks to be closed, but I could ride it out for a few months and survive, chewing up all my life savings type thing, but I could be okay. I didn't want to do it, but that's the way it was going to be. Okay. But my students that were reaching out to me for their mental health, that was the push I had to do, because they were coming to me saying, look, when I started training with you, I was coming off of drugs and alcohol, and I was trying to find something that gave me focus and to live a healthy lifestyle. And they were clean and sober for like 2 or 3 years because they had this outlet of the gym and training, not even wanting to fight, but just to hit the pads and camaraderie of being a part of something. And then when it shut down, they started going down that path again because they mentally didn't have that connection. And they were reaching out, saying, man, I'm doing stuff I hadn't been doing. Suicidal thoughts are coming back. I'm back on medication for my mental health. And that was my reason. I'm like, something's got to happen, because what do I do if one of my students took their life because they didn't have, the support? It was crazy. You could go to Walmart and Costco with a crowd of people and shop, but you couldn't go to an AA meeting. So that didn't make sense to me, right? So even if you don't open my gym, how about you open up AA meetings for people with addictions, so they can get help, and they don't have to. Liquor stores open, you can go buy booze, but you can't go to AA to not drink. And that was the kind of stuff that, again, like you said, I'm all about the law and obeying. I train lots of police, and I'm that kind of guy. But when right is right and wrong is wrong, and there's no common sense applied, someone's got to say something. And so I had to stand up for my students, because I didn't want to lose any of them, because nothing was being done for them. Like, they didn't matter. We're concerned about a 90-year-old that could die from a common cold, which sucks, is why we don't go visit them when we're sick. But everyone's talking about those people, but not about the people who are losing their businesses and committing suicide. People, their mental health is going down the toilet and they're committing suicide. That's a bad thing for society as well. And I think we have to look at everybody and what's best for the entire population. So
it's a great perspective on that. I appreciate that. That's hopefully, listeners listen to that and they understand and they can relate to it, and it can help them with that. So thank you for that. I'm just curious, Canadian MMA right now. So the state of it, obviously coming off the pandemic, a few guys have gotten some UFC fights. That's the only promotion running right now in the world. One championship overseas just announced at the end of July. They're going to reopen they got a card coming out, I think July 30th or 31st. So just to get back, so we got, out your way, I think there's like Unified and Z Promotions, and there's been, a few other different ones in the past. MFC, I think, is one. I don't know.
They don't do shows anymore, but they used to do shows. Yeah.
Yeah. And then over here, we got like BTC, and then out east, they got the Fight League Atlantic. Those are just a few, but as we can progress to get back to having cards, what else can everybody do so we can build ourselves back up and, get our successful fighters that maybe people don't know about, more cards and more shows and things like that?
Yeah, it's a tough business, because for the smaller shows, and pretty much everyone I know loses money, or they barely break even. They're not making money. So the hard part is to get enough people to come to any show locally to make enough money to make a viable business decision. And that's tough, because I always say this, as I'm a fighter, I'm a coach, I'm a manager of my guys. I know they don't get paid enough for what they do, but I also know as a promoter, the money's not there to pay them. And I understand when guys out east say, hey, you got anyone that can fight? I'm like, yeah, I do, but they can't afford to fly us out there, because the costs across Canada are ridiculous to fly.
Yeah.
Where it's cheaper for me to bring a guy from Vegas to fight at my show, or a guy from California is way cheaper to fly them in than it is to fly someone from Toronto. And that's the hard part. So, and I get that. There's a budget restraint, because you could say, oh, I'll fly you in and your cornerman and pay you this. That's great, but now you're broke and you're out of business, so now there's nowhere to fight. So promoters have to really focus on the local community they have of fighters and build those guys up. And then if there's a big super fight that, back in the day, it used to be, TKO and MFC and Rumble in the Cage and stuff, we would have guys fight for a main event. And if our main event guy won, there's a good chance he's going to get signed by the UFC or someone, right? Because you're that elite level. And
Yep.
you fought everyone locally, so now you got to start bringing guys in, which means your costs go up. So fighters, until they get to the big stage, have to accept they're not going to get paid a lot of money. They're putting their time in. They're trying to build their name and their reputation, and they got to work with the promoter. And the promoter's got to do the best they can to take care of that person. And it might not just be the money they can pay them, but just treat them good. Start the show on time. Pick them up when you say you're going to pick them up. Don't stiff them on their gas money or, different things like that.
The little things, right? The little things add up.
Yeah. And there's some good promoters out there. Like I love fighting on Unified Show because they take care of us. And, and I try and do that for the guys that come to my shows. I never have a problem getting enough guys to fight on my shows. In fact, I have booked 17, 18 fights usually on every show, and I could book 30, but I can't be there all night either.
No, yeah.
I want guys to get experience, not just my guys on my team, but I want teams from, fighters from other teams and other provinces to come in and fight so they get experience. One, they get experience now they can fight my guys who get lots of fights, but, it's about building that community and that sport, giving them a chance to compete. And, that's a part of it, but the budget's everything. You can't spend what you don't have.
Exactly.
There's no real good TV market for the small shows and revenue to pay that money. So that's the tough balancing act.
Do you anticipate fighting again yourself? You're 5-1 in your last 6 in a 4-year span. And
Yeah.
if so, is there somebody out there you haven't fought maybe that you want to fight?
Yeah, I really wanted to fight a bunch this year because I was feeling great physically. And then the shutdown, I had a Muay Thai fight booked with Nick Penner. That show got canceled. That would have been a super tough fight. That was like the tough fights, one they're going to challenge me. At 53, I got to be motivated to train that hard and to get beat up and be worth it because the money's not worth it. And I'm not doing it for the money. But also I get paid well because I by the time I put in, and if I get hurt, I can't do my job, which means I got to compensate that somehow. But anyone in the top 10, they're all tough guys, right? And I want to be the guy that challenges them. And I want the challenge for myself. So I'm just willing to fight anybody, really. If anyone wants to fight me, hey, let's fight. Because you never know. It's MMA. The guy could have never fought before and still give you the toughest fight ever.
Yep.
So I never take anyone lightly, and I respect that they want to fight me. I don't call guys out. I just tell the promoters, hey, you got someone who wants to fight, I'll fight. You name the time and place, I'll show up. You don't just send me a contract. I will show up at weigh-ins and I'll be ready to fight. And, just because I love doing it and the challenge. I love beating the guy. And having a friend after the fight, whether he beats me or I beat him, don't matter to me. I'm going to give him 100% while I'm in there. And then we can joke around after and he can come train with us or I can go train with them or whatever. And that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope, like I said before, I hope some cards come back and then you can get your name on that. And if you're fighting somebody, I'll make sure to be watching it. I think I watched the last one. So hoping so. Just talk a little bit about your son. So he, I told you before, he was on a few Score Fighting Series cards back in the day that I had gone to. I went to watch my buddy Josh Hill fight a few times. Jordan was always, great in those shows. Obviously got up to the big show, Strikeforce, UFC. He won his last 2 in the UFC, but I recently heard he signed with Bellator. Is that true?
Yeah. He signed with Bellator and he was supposed to fight in May, and then COVID hit and they shut their show down. But now they're talking about starting up again right away. So hopefully they announce something soon about a fight for him, and we'll be able to talk about it. But yeah, he's itching and ready to fight and excited to put on, something big with Bellator. We like the opportunity with them, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, well, my friend Josh as well is part of Bellator, and he was saying they're probably going to do like a show a week for a while. So let's hope both of them can get on a card very soon and against some big names. Our next segment is going to take 1 minute, so it's called Between Rounds, and I'm going to ask you basically one thing or another, and you just have to choose one.
Okay.
We ready for that?
No, I'm trying to be. Yeah.
All right. Steak or seafood?
Steak.
How do you like your steak cooked?
Medium rare.
Fighting or owning your own gym?
Fighting.
Do you like rock, country, or other?
rock and country.
I like it. Country rock.
Bandits. Moonshine Bandits all day.
Yes. Edmonton, Calgary, or Lethbridge?
Lethbridge.
Training or coaching?
Coaching.
Rear naked choke or armbar?
Straight armbar from side mount. Yes.
Music or sports?
Sports.
Movies or TV shows?
Movies.
Beach or fishing?
Beach.
Who wins in a rematch, Lee or Dan Severn?
Leave me in all day long.
Who wins if they were to match up now? Who GSP or Anderson Silva?
GSP.
GSP or Khabib?
GSP. Distance control. That's the key to combat. He's good at it.
And I don't want to say fight because that wouldn't be right, but who wins in a tussle? Jordan Mean or Lee Mean?
Jordan Mean all day long. He's got the cardio and he knows what I know. As long as he doesn't, and he never lets me get the side mount or scarf hold, so I won't get there on him. So he'll pick me apart and beat me up. So I accept that.
I like it. Lastly, any shout outs at all? Any sponsors or things related to your gym that you wanted to give a shout out for?
Just again, support from the community for the gym, all the sponsors that sponsor the Rumble in the Cage, and the fighters that come on, the fans, that community that we've developed, and not just here in Lethbridge, but Edmonton, Red Deer. There's great pockets for fighting, and if it wasn't for the fans and the sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, and the fighters wouldn't have those opportunities. So those are my biggest thanks is to those people.
That's great. I should have asked you before, but I got to ask you, is there a name or two, maybe within your gym or somebody around your area that maybe not a lot of people know about, but has a ton of potential? And I'm not talking like your son, like somebody that's got, a couple of fights, or somebody in the next couple of years that, we can watch out for as Canadian MMA fans.
Yeah, I've got a few guys that are up and coming, really amateur, but they'll be turning pro eventually, and I think they'll do some really good stuff like Dylan Schellenberg. He's really focused and dialed in. I got some pros like Sheldon Dahl. I've got all the skill in the world. Colton Cronkite, up and coming, really strong. I think he's got potential too. And I got veterans like Spencer Ohovi and Tim Tamaki that always bring a great fight, no matter who they fight. And I think they could hang in the UFC no problem. They just got to, UFC likes the perfect record guys, but my guys have the losses, but they also have the experience to beat all those guys. And so I love my team and the effort they put in.
And did you see Tanner on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was cheering for him. I went up and helped. I got beat up by him for a couple of days right before he went out for the fight. So it was fun to train with him for a bit and then have him go down there and dominate like that. It was impressive, and I love seeing it. And
lastly, what was better, his actual fight in the first round or his post-fight call out?
Well, the finish in the fight, that desired, the passion to kill when you're there and not like, oh, are you okay? I don't want to hurt you. No, he went for the kill, and that's the mental state that you need, and he had it in that fight. And then the after stuff was just comedy, and that's what kind of great guy he is. So that's what made it even more fun. So. Yeah, it's great to see the personality, but 100% that first round finish was amazing. Yeah. He needed it, and he'll only go up from here. Lee Main, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And good luck to you in the future, and to Jordan in his next fight. This is Hooks In MMA. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next guest on the Hooks In MMA podcast, we have 24-5 flyweight from Hanford. Born in Hanford, but from Lemoore, California, Alex Perez.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Not too bad, man. First day back in California, full day back in California. I was in Vegas for like the last 3 weeks, I think. So good to be home. Yeah. Were you doing some training there? Or? Well, we had guys so I fought, then we had Mark and Christian Aguilera fight. Then we had Frank Camacho fight. So I stayed around and helped them out. Okay, awesome. So they're all part of your team then? Yeah, Team Oyama. Awesome. Again, thanks again for coming on today. We're just going to talk about a few things. The first thing is your last fight against Yusir Formiga. Huge bout for you, just based on rankings, and an incredible performance. You came forward, you
tethered him with leg kicks. You dictated the pace of the fight, making it unable for him to even move and stand, and ultimately ended the fight that way. How did you feel about that fight in general?
It was like a bittersweet. Me and Jasir are friends. I've known that guy since my second amateur fight. That's when I met him in about 2010. So, I mean, for me, it's business, but at the same time, too, it's like, man, that's my friend. But once you get in there, kind of the friendship goes out the window. And I'm trying to move up the rankings. And, yeah, man, that's how it was. But, I mean, it was a big win. Jasir's one of the guys I really respect in the sport. He's a true martial artist in and out, you know what I mean? The guy is one of the best guys I know on the planet, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, MMA, but just in general, he's a really nice person.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like that, and you're right. Even though, friends outside the ring, it's all business in the ring. I guess if there's a silver lining, you didn't knock him out cold. He actually just couldn't, move on anymore because he couldn't stand. But just a great performance and a great one to watch. And that sets you up really nicely. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So 11-1 in your last 12, incredible run right now. You did have the setback with Joseph Benavidez, which is, one of the best flyweights and fought at bantamweight a little bit in the sport, a bit of a legend. What did you take away from that fight?
Biggest thing was one that I could compete. I mean, the fight was close until it wasn't, and second thing, it helped me kind of bring me back down to earth. I mean, winning 3 fights in the UFC right off the back, having a performance like I did against Shorty, and then, like, hey, I could have just took the guy down and beat him up there. But the last thing, it helped me work on my defense when he came in and I kind of duck heads. We ended up clashing heads, and he does that to everybody. Not on purpose. I just think just the way he fights. And I'm not saying like he's not good or he's the cheater. That's the way he fights. You know what I mean? He doesn't do it on purpose. He leads with his head. And yeah, I mean, I just learned those are the biggest 3 things I learned. Especially my defensive part. Not to duck my head a certain way. Kind of if I'm gonna meet someone head to head, might as well meet them forehead to forehead instead of turning my head like I did. And yeah exactly. Moving forward, so you fought before the Contender Series, you fought Tyler Bielecki, and I just wanted to ask you, so that fight was at bantamweight at 135, and then your next fight, I believe it was somewhere around 6 months later, that fight was on Dana White Contender Series, was at flyweight. So was there a plan to drop down and to stay at that weight going into the Contender Series, or was it just, was it a quick call that you got and that's just what weight you were at, or how did that work? No, so I fought at 25s and 35s in the local scene for a long time. To me, it doesn't matter really, just trying to get the experience. Fought 25s, 35s, I won one fight, I fought at 55s. So I kind of bounced up and down, just about getting paid when you're not making too much money, trying to take as many fights. And then once you start getting better and get a better record, guys don't want to fight you. So you got to take the fights you can get. And that fight, they actually won it at 25s, but against Tyler. But what happened was I was getting ready for somebody else at 35s on the same card. And they told me like 2 weeks out, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to make 25s. Like, nah.
No, okay.
I'm not gonna put myself. He's a 35er, but he was trying to make 25s. I'm like, dude, if he misses weight, or if I miss weight, it looks bad. Let's just fight at 35s. 2 weeks notice, Like I'm not trying to kill myself.
No kidding.
To make this weight. So that's what we ended up finding at 35s, and then Contender Series was 25s. Just that's the weight class I want to compete. I wanted to compete at anyway. So. That's the spot they gave me. If they would have given me a 35-pound spot and I would have got the contract, most likely I would have cut down. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. So what do you feel about the flyweight division right now? Because at one point, Demetrius left and went overseas. And then, a big name in the sport, probably one of the best flyweights ever. It kind of, deteriorated a little bit. They were talking about maybe taking the flyweight division away, but now it's kind of built back up with some big names, including yourself. So just how do you feel about that coming back in?
I feel the division is good, man. I don't think it was ever bad. It just sucks that you have such a dominant champion, kind of like when Anderson Silva was on his run, right? No one out. Like the division got kind of bland. You see Anderson Silva just beating all these guys, and once once he lost, it kind of got better. Same thing. Demetrius was so dominant. Lost a really close decision to Henry Cejudo in LA, I believe.
Yeah.
And then and I mean the division's good. I mean Henry didn't really clean out the division. There were still guys that he hadn't fought in. Like he didn't fight Joe rematch. Yes, I know it was a close fight. I know because of grind strike. But it doesn't matter. He still lost the fight. Davison Figueroa. There's a lot of other guys. I mean, he fought Jasur to a split decision. Those guys that he didn't he dominated, but he didn't.
Yep.
Early on in his career, and I felt like he could have gone and done that, to prove a point. Like, okay, I'm gonna finish all these guys now instead of, moving up. But I feel like the division's good. A lot of big names, a lot of young guys in there, like myself. You got Kai Kara-France, you got Brandon Moreno, you got, some of the other guys that just got signed. They're gonna fight, a couple weeks. You got a couple of the Brazilians back in there, So there's those guys in the division that are making it exciting, and we've been putting on fights. Like I said, we got a lot of young talent in there, and it's exciting right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The flyweight division is healthy and it's ready to go. That leads into my next question. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm also a big fan of Brandon Moreno, and I kind of like that matchup just stylistically as a fan. Hooks in MMA. There's 4 or 5 buddies of ours that are doing this just to, talk with gentlemen like you that are willing to take their time and discuss, potential matchups and current news. What kind of matchup do you think that is with Moreno, since you guys technically are probably, we got the big fight in a few weeks. You guys are the next 2 guys in line. How do you like that matchup?
I'm always down to fight, man. I've always liked a challenge. So I'm ready for whatever. It's not up to me. It's up to the UFC. I've turned down one fight in my UFC career, and that was because injury.
Yep.
But other than that, I say yes to everybody, even short notice or not. So I'm just waiting to see what they're gonna do.
Yep. Well, I personally would like to see that. So hopefully something like that happens, or maybe there's something else. But who do you believe wins the second fight between Joseph Benavidez and Davison Figueiredo?
I think Davison, man, he hits harder than Joe. Joe's chance to win is pitter patter, numbers, try to work the takedowns, things like that. Davison has that one punch knockout. You see that against Joe, but then you also seen it against a couple other guys where he's landing that one punch and drop guys. So yeah, I feel like it's harder to pitter patter for 25 minutes, and it's easier to land one punch, because it just takes out one. So I still have Davison winning. I don't know if he'll make weight, but I still got him winning.
That's the big thing, right? Because from the first fight, it wasn't considered title fight, right? Because of the missed weight. So hopefully in his camp leading up to this next one, he figures out what went wrong the first time.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see what happens, man. It's always just interesting to see.
Yeah. So our last little segment here is called Between Rounds. So I'm going to give you 1 minute, and we'll set the clock here. And more or less, I'm going to ask you a question. You just have to give an answer based on that question. It's more or less like a one-word answer, okay?
Okay.
We ready to go for that?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
All right. Seafood or steak dinner?
Steak dinner.
Surfing or wakeboarding?
Either none.
No, neither.
None.
West Coast or East Coast?
West Coast, man.
San Diego, Los Angeles, or San Francisco?
San Diego.
Boxing or Muay Thai?
Boxing.
Wrestling or striking?
Wrestling.
Submission or knockout?
Knockout.
Bantamweight or flyweight?
Flyweight.
Who do you got winning, Aldo or Jan?
I got Aldo, man. All-time fave.
Awesome. Holloway or Volkanovski 2?
I got Volkanovski.
Usman or Burns?
I got Burns.
Alex Perez or Brandon Moreno?
Alex Perez, man.
Alex Perez or the winner of Figueiredo Benavidez?
Alex Perez.
And are you going to be flyweight champion by the end of 2020?
I will be fine for that flyweight belt and by the end of the year, and be champion by the end of the year for sure. No
Awesome.
doubt.
Awesome. Just lastly, any shout outs or any sponsors you wanted to give?
Just big thank you for having me on here. Working with my schedule, I really appreciate that. Just big shout out to my main sponsors, Miss Mary Jane CBD, Drink HRW, High Desert Python, Soul Ride. Those guys have been taking care of me. Suavecito, you guys, awesome. Sweet Smarts, my favorite candy to eat in camp and out of camp, Just thank you guys so much for all the support. My family, friends, my team, Team Oyama, Team Ochoa back home, the Valley, the 559. Thank you guys. I really love representing you guys, and can't wait to do it again.
Awesome. So proud of your performance last. I can't wait to see your next fight. And tell your boy Cheeto Vera, he's next for the podcast.
All right, man. I will for sure.
Okay, you take care. Have a good training session.
All right, brother. Thank you again for working with me.
No problem. You take care.
Laters.
All right, bye.
Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, yeah.